Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unexplained Archives. I am one of your hosts, Jen.
Hi, I'm Jamie. Welcome back.
Hi, Jamie. How's it going?
It's going. I'm alive.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
alive.
Yes. Yes, you are. It's so good. Do you want to tell everybody how you were almost unalived?
Yeah, unalived. That's a
Yes.
new term. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I actually had some crazy mishap I was donating plasma. I've done it a few times in the past. Everything seemed to be going well. I was hydrated. I got all my protein in. I was feeling good. But I was hooked up to the donating machine, whatever you call it.
Yes.
And it was acting strange. Like it would pump a little bit and then it would shut off, and then it would pump a little bit and shut off. And it kept doing this for several minutes. And I just knew something was wrong. And so I tried to get the attention of the phlebotomist, who was just sweeping because I was one of the last people in the
Okay.
building. So he was trying to close up, and usually the machines are just on auto,
Sure.
pilot.
Yeah.
Like they don't have to do much once they hit start or whatever.
Yep.
But for some reason, a piece of it broke, and my blood was spilling all over the floor. So I wasn't getting the return fluids, back. Like it wasn't taking just plasma. It was taking all my blood, my whole blood.
Right.
So I lost 200 milliliters of red blood cells before they were able to stop it.
Yeah.
And I was told that if I hadn't caught it, if I hadn't realized that something was wrong, that it could have been lethal.
Good
So
heaven.
I'm very lucky that I was paying attention and that I wasn't a new donor, because they wouldn't have known that something was different,
Right.
So,
Oh,
but yeah, so I'm okay. I was a little lightheaded, a little nauseous. I had to spend some time with the nurse that was on duty, and she was like, you're not going to be able to donate again for a while. And I was like, I think that's going to be an issue for me. So, yeah. So it was scary. It was a freak thing. And even the guy, the phlebotomist, I'm like, I've never seen this happen before, and he's like, me either, to be honest.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? How did I get so lucky?
Right. So, yeah. Why do you get to be the one? Like,
yeah.
Oh gosh.
So weird stuff. So I feel lucky to be alive, and that I was actually paying attention to what was going on, and glad I was, since they weren't. So.
Right. I know, that's the thing. Like, that's a scary thing, because just like you said, if you were somebody new who didn't know what to look out for, or the sounds, like you're used to the sounds, and so that could have been really, really bad. Really bad. Yeah. So,
but I'm doing fine. I was nauseous for a long time. That was the main thing, and then just a little lightheaded. But I don't know.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Good. We are glad you were here.
Me too. Me too.
Good.
Awesome.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
How about you? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been nothing quite like that. So it's been good. You and I have just had like the last couple weeks have been a little crazy, and I don't know what's going on. But we're going with it. We keep going.
We're going with it. We're both still here. We're alive and kicking and doing episode 13. Is that right?
Oh my gosh. Is it? Yes.
I think that's right. Episode
you're right.
13.
Yeah,
wow.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
No, it's 13.
13.
Yeah.
I think I labeled it 12, but it's
I know that threw me off, because so on our end of it, we can actually see we can see our little dashboard, and I was like, wait a minute, it says 12, so no, it can't be 13, but it's 13.
I think it is. I think last week was 12. So wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Look at us go.
I know. Look at us go. Like coming back from the dead and bringing you the spooky. So yeah.
Yeah. So if I look a little pale today, just,
That's it. That's the only reason. She
uh,
just almost died. It's all right.
no big deal.
Right.
I'm still podcasting, dang it.
Yeah, right. Right. We got a job to do.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, speaking of which, we have I got a story for us today.
Oh,
So,
yeah, you do.
yes, yeah. So, today we are going to be talking about the Michigan Hell House. For those who don't know, I am from Michigan. I live in Michigan. This particular story takes place in the Saginaw area. So if you get out your little map, Saginaw is probably a little bit up here. And then, so I'm down here. So I'm like about 2 hours away from the Saginaw area.
Yeah. Other
And
states should be jealous that they can't use
we
the
have
hand.
got little maps like everywhere I
Yeah.
go. And I think you can kind of do like the Upper Peninsula with your other hand a
There
little
you
bit too.
go.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we got it every going on.
I
Like we can
know.
totally show you the way with our hands. It's great.
Yes.
So yeah. So yes, so the Michigan Hell House in the Saginaw area, it is in a city called Merrill, Michigan. This case was kind of, if you're aware of the case, it's almost one of those things, like it's one of the scariest stories you may have never even heard about. I know about it because paranormal investigator Steve Shippey has been working on this story. He's been working with the story for years. So if you don't know Steve Shippey, he is a Saginaw native. And Jamie and I were discussing before the show, he was actually a rapper going by the name of Prozac for many years before that. I think technically it's like the genre is like horrorcore
Okay.
rap. So yeah. So it probably was an easy transition for him to go from something
Right.
like that to paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
And so he started doing these documentaries, the Haunted in Saginaw documentaries, for years now. And one of the cases he took on was the story of the Pomeranings from Merrill, Michigan.
Okay.
And so I highly, highly recommend. I'm going to tell the story today, but I highly recommend finding the documentary from Steve Shippey. They're on Amazon. I think almost all of his documentaries are on Amazon. He does have some on his Patreon page, but this particular one, it's Haunting in Saginaw Dice Road is what they call this one.
Okay.
And then later, Steve Shippey ended up working and doing a lot of stuff for the Travel Channel. And so he had a show of his own called Haunting in the Heartland, which unfortunately is no longer on. I thought it was fantastic. And then he started doing something called Shock Docs with psychic Cindy Kaza. And the two of them would take on different stories and work that. And those are super interesting too. And you can find those on Max or Discovery Plus as well.
Okay.
And so they actually did a shock doc on what they call the Michigan Hell House. So that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah. Yeah. So this does take place with a family, the Pomeraning family. It is Harold and Mabel Pomeraning, and they built their home in 1951 in Merrill, Michigan. They ended up having two boys, Dwayne and Terry, which I always found interesting because my dad's name is Terry and he has a brother named Dwayne. So I'm like, there we go. So yes, they were, lived there, they built it, they were there. And then in July of 1974, things began to get a little crazy in the house. In fact, it was specifically July 9th of 1974. The family had gone to bed. The boys are teens at this point. And around midnight, there is a very loud pounding around the house. The pounding was so hard, it actually broke a window in their home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yes. So the father, Harold, he had gotten up to kind of investigate to see what was going on, found that there was a broken window. He really did like I think he even had his gun on him. He did a sweep of the house and found nobody. There wasn't anybody around. There didn't seem to be anybody around on the outside. So they kind of let it go. But then the next night, the pounding continued. It happened again and again and again. Each night around midnight, there would be these horrible pounding sounds that would wake everybody up. And
Wow.
so, yeah, so it got to the point where they did call the police because they felt like someone is clearly playing a prank on them. Something's going on. So the police would come out and they would do a sweep and they would look around. They couldn't find anything. So this was happening again and again and again around the same time, every single night, every single day. Yeah, which would be, I can't even imagine. Like you're getting,
No, how unnerving would that be?
yeah, that's freaky. And like knowing it's coming. At some
Yeah.
point, they're like, it's going to happen, right?
Right.
So the pounding eventually turned into almost like explosive sounds, big booming sounds that were happening around the house that would actually shake the house. So
What?
you would get the pounding and then these explosion sounds and shaking of the house. Yeah. So now the police are there and they are looking all over and they can't find any reason as to why this is happening. At some point, the police officers start staying the night at
Wow,
their
they're brave.
house in hopes to maybe catch who is ever causing this.
Yeah.
Never anybody. So on Halloween night, October 31st in 1974, the police decided to have a stakeout. They didn't even tell the Pomeranians what they were going to do. They had the usual officers that were inside the house staying with them, but there were police officers everywhere. They're down the road, they're in the backyard, thinking, we're going to catch whoever is doing this, right? And so I know at one point the boys, Dwayne and Terry, were kind of suspects. Like they thought maybe the boys
Mm,
were causing this.
okay.
They thought maybe they
Blaming
might.
on the teenagers, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Like they must be up to something, right?
Right.
And they actually both kind of became suspects.
Okay.
But the night that they had this stakeout, the pounding started happening again. So the police officer that's in the house actually had radioed over to someone else in a car that's out around near their house saying, it's happening. Can you see anybody out there? Now, the pounding was so loud, it was actually coming through the radio. The officer who was in the car could actually hear the pounding through the radio. And,
Wow.
and nothing. They can't see anybody or any reason what could possibly be causing this. Um, at some point, the entire family became suspects. Like they weren't sure if it had they were feeling like it's got to be somebody here who's doing it. So that everyone actually went in and got a lie detector test. Yeah, they gave one to everybody, and everyone passed. For some reason, they kind of were looking at Dwayne. He is the oldest, and
Okay.
they kind of felt like he was holding something back. And so he also passed his lie detector. And so no longer is the family under suspicion, right? And the police have been there. They're watching them. They're like, obviously, they're not doing anything. They're right here in front of us. So
Right.
can't be them. So in order to kind of get to the bottom of what could be happening, the police brought in all different types of experts. So they brought in the power company. They brought in Dow Chemical, Bell Telephone, U.S. Geological Survey for a seismograph.
Like they're just having earthquakes at their house, right?
Yes, yes, which is totally possible.
Yeah.
And the FAA to come and run
Huh.
all these tests to see if it could be anything, because it just didn't make any sense as to why this was going on.
Yeah.
And nothing. Everything came back normal. Now, this was the point that it is said the police, and this is the way they phrased it, quietly recognized that this must be paranormal.
Right. They're not telling anyone. They're going to
Yeah.
keep their circle tight on this
Yes,
information, but
exactly.
They had to
exactly.
acknowledge it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because, yeah.
so this was 20 years after they built the house that this started
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
basically, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
they're the only ones. They are the only ones who have ever lived there. They just can't figure out what could be causing such a racket like this and
Yeah.
so disruptive.
How bizarre.
Yeah. So then things began to kind of pick up a bit. The family, I think, at that point also was beginning to wonder if this was something not very explainable. And so they actually went to the pastor at their church and asked if he would come and give a blessing to the house. Now, the rumors of everything going on out at their house at this point had become known because Merrill is a very small town. It's a village, really.
Right.
So everybody knew everybody. I mean, even if you weren't all best friends, you knew, the name and the face. And
Yeah.
so the stories of what's going on over at the Pomeraning's house is getting out there, and the pastor would not come. He wouldn't come out. I think,
Really?
yeah, he himself was a little afraid of what was going on, and
Huh.
he did not. So then they
But
went to
I thought the Catholic priest had superpowers for this
Oh,
kind of stuff.
so apparently their church was not Catholic. I'm not exactly sure what
Oh,
the
okay.
denomination was. However, that's when they decided we better go to the Catholics because the Catholics, yes, they have to help. It's not a choice.
Right.
Yeah, if you have an issue like this, you just go straight to the Catholics because
That's
have
right.
your answer. Yeah.
'Cause that's where you're
So,
gonna end up anyway. So
yeah, you might as well skip everything else. The
that's
Methodists can't
right.
help you. The Lutherans, Scientology, it can't help you. So you got to
No,
just go straight to the Catholics.
that's right.
so, so they did have the priest from the Catholic Church come out and give the house a blessing. But they said after that, the activity actually started ramping up after that.
Ooh, not good.
No, no, that's not good at all. So, um, at this point, the family began to hear disembodied voices, so they could hear things now. So at one point, the boys could actually hear a voice saying, "I'm going to kill your family."
Oh, no. No, 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 no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, no. This
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Which is, yeah. That I can't. And here's the thing, though. Like the boys are teenagers, but they're still like they're kids. They're just kids.
Yeah.
So to have to go through this and experience this, I can't even imagine. And now this had started in like July of 74. Now we're into the fall. Like they're trying to go to school, like they're trying to live
Right.
their lives. And this stuff is happening. I can't even imagine how scared they
No.
have been. So, and let alone their parents. I mean, that's just so scary to me to even
Yeah.
think about. So
Right.
everyone must have been terrified. So they also began to experience poltergeist activity. So things began to like start flying around the house. Things were coming off the walls. Um, all kinds of things were just kind of breaking and just out of nowhere. Things were flying. There was even a particular incident where Mabel Pomeraning was actually attacked by a pillow.
What?
Yes. So pillow, just like a sofa cushion, a little decorative pillow, from what I understand, actually came flying at her and pinned her up against the wall. So she
Like
was like
trying to like suffocate
suffocate
her
her.
type of thing?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
It literally took 4 men to come and pry the pillow off of her. Yeah.
This is crazy. This is a
Isn't it?
crazy story. I know we're just getting started, but
It is.
wow.
I
Okay.
that's the thing. Um like I said, like it's almost one of those stories. Like, how is this not like more famous than some
No,
of
I've
like
never heard of this. I can't
beyond
believe it.
Amityville? Yeah, that's the thing. And so, yeah, and when you watch Steve Shippey's documentaries, he'll say the same thing. It's probably like the biggest paranormal case you've never even heard of.
Right.
So he really did bring light to this situation because it is. I mean, the things that happened to this family is just, and it went on for such a long period of time. It's just unheard of. It's just unheard of. It's terrible. I mean, you've experienced these types of things, and so
Yeah.
it can really terrorize a family, and it's like, what do you do? Like, you don't, like, you're like, this is my home. I don't want to leave my home.
Right.
But it's like, how do you live when these things
Yeah.
just start happening?
Yeah.
Um, so in February of 1975, so now we're going into the next year, one of the police officers suggested a friend who has an interest in the occult, and he has done some communicating with my favorite thing, the Ouija board.
I knew this. I knew it had to have something about the
Yeah,
Ouija
yeah.
board in
Yeah,
here.
we got to bring the Ouija
Those
in here somehow,
rascals.
right? Yes. So yes. So this friend of the police officer came over and he brought his Ouija board. They had they had a full on a session with the board and they were asking questions. And so at one point they had asked a question and the board spelled out the word knife.
Ooh.
And as soon as it had got done spelling knife, a large knife came pulled out by itself out of the, block, your butcher block, came out and actually flung itself towards the table where everyone was at the Ouija board, and the darn thing came flying and stuck right in the wall. Yeah. So this is the thing. So
This doesn't even seem
no, it
real. This
doesn't seem.
is crazy. Okay.
No, this is the stuff that happened in like 1980s horror films that we used to watch. Like this is
Yes.
stuff that you completely
Yes.
is in movies only,
This is
and
the stuff that those movies are based
based
on. This
off
is
of. Yes,
crazy. Okay.
yes. And so the thing, and we've talked about this with other stories before. The thing that gets me so much about this particular story is the amount of witnesses to this. Like
Right.
these people are not making this up. Like you have many witnesses. Like I said, at one point the police are staying the night over there, so they are
Yeah.
all witness to this.
Right.
It just seems so crazy, these things that were going on to this poor family.
Yeah.
And so so yes, the Ouija board. That just yeah. So I think that was the last time they did a Ouija board session. No more of that. But yeah, I mean, someone could have lost their life or been super
Yeah.
horribly injured by something like that.
Yep.
So, at this point, there was an anonymous donor
Hmm.
who paid for a parapsychologist from Duke University to come and investigate the home. So William Roll, who actually has worked on several pretty famous paranormal cases, he was brought in and he had an assistant by the name of Jerry Sullivan. And they came to actually stay with the Pomeranians in February of 1975. So the police actually drove them to the house. They kind of like escorted them, right? Like, here you go. Like, this is where they are. And just so they could, say like these people desperately need some help. So, it still is unknown who paid for them to come out, but that was like super kind. It just got to the point where they know that they needed some help with this.
Right.
So, yeah. So, right from the start, Jerry said he experienced, and this is the assistant. I think William Roll is no longer with us, but Jerry
Okay.
Sullivan is very much alive, and he was in both documentaries, and so he has a lot to say on this case. But as soon as he came in the house, he experienced it all. He got the banging, the explosions, things flying across the room. And he was actually witness to the pillow situation with Mabel. I believe he was there
Oh, okay.
helping her get the pillow off of her. So he got to see it all. So he was there for that. In his first week of being with the Pomeranians, there were 3 fires in the house. 3 in
Wow.
1 week. First one was after Jerry took a shower. He'd hung his towel up, and it caught on fire.
What?
Just set on fire, the towel. So that was fire number 1. So he was fully witness to this.
Yeah.
Second one, there was a roll of toilet paper that just combusted and was set on fire. Yeah. And then the third was on a Sunday. So they were actually getting ready to go to church, and another fire had broken out while they were in there. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
How are they still staying in this house? This
I
is
don't know.
what's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. I really don't know their situation or how they or why they decided to continue staying there during this time, but I have to, assume they had good reason.
yeah,
I know a lot of people get in these situations and like it's hard. You can't afford another house until
right.
you sell the one you're in. And at
Yeah,
this point, who's going to want to take
yeah,
that off your hands? You
exactly. I mean,
kind
it
of
took us about 3 or 4 years
to sell your home.
of
Yeah,
actively, like, trying to actively thinking of, how to get out of the house, you know?
exactly. Yes,
To be able to financially do it. So, I mean, I
exactly.
get that, but our lives weren't being threatened either,
Yeah,
you
yes, yeah.
know? So, ugh,
Yeah, that's the thing, and so, yeah, I don't know how I would be able to handle, especially the fires, like, that's so much, like, I would be afraid to sleep at night because I'd be so
yeah,
afraid something would just be
I
happening all the
don't
time.
think I could sleep. I
Yeah,
just oh,
yeah,
yep.
yep, and so the state marshal had actually come out for all the fires, and he had written up reports for each of these situations, and, I've actually seen the reports, and which it states it's humanly impossible that a person set these fires, and
Wow.
they could not figure out because a towel would not just normally catch on fire, and it's like kind
No.
of damp too because
Yeah,
they
that's what I was
right,
thinking.
yeah.
If you just got
Mhm.
out of the shower, like, I feel
Yeah,
like if someone tried to set it on fire, they couldn't, you know?
exactly. It would be a really not an easy feat.
No.
So, yes. So they cannot figure out. They have no idea. Like there's no answers here. Um so let's talk about the neighbors in the neighborhood. Um so there was one neighbor in particular who had moved in across the street, and it was a woman who came about a month before everything started happening in the Pomeranian house. Um, people actually reported seeing this woman, who she was kind of would be sometimes outside, dancing at night.
Okay.
Yep, dancing around fires at night.
Huh.
A lot of like waving, hand movement kind of things. And there would be other people there too at sometimes, and they would be doing the same type of thing. And they would, I mean, I don't want to go as far. No one used the word chanting, but just the way they
Yeah.
kind of described it is, they were kind of out there chanting
Right.
around the fires. Yeah. And so, yeah, and other neighbors were interviewed about this woman. Um, and the lady that lived across the street, was actually had no problem letting other neighbors know that she was an ordained witch. She would say, "I am an ordained witch." So
Okay.
she she had no shame in her game. She said, "This is what I am," and that's
Yeah.
that. Apparently she always kind of wore black. She kind of wore black lipstick. People had also seen her kind of walking around at night in the local cemetery.
So she was like
Um,
OG goth.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It wasn't really a thing back then.
Right. Yes, and she was doing it. She's a trendsetter, is what she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was said that over her garage door were three X's that were there over the garage door. You could actually visibly see it, from what I understand from the road. The Pomeranians were actually told later by their priest that that was a sign of the devil, having three X's like that on your home.
Okay.
So I don't know. If you're the welcoming committee in that neighborhood, I don't really know how you
Yeah.
would deal when you've got something like that. Like I've had some interesting neighbors before, but
Right.
this one takes the cake.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when the police, like, staked out the place, did they witness any of this that you know of? Any
If
of this
they did,
activity?
no one said anything about
That's
it.
so strange. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it seemed like a lot of this was really kind of happening maybe beforehand.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yes. So what had happened is like, so shortly after she had kind of moved in, she did come across the street and talk with Harold, the dad, and she had said to Harold, "I want to buy your house." And he had said, "Well, why do you want to buy my house?" And apparently she would never really answer as to why she wanted it. She wanted it. And he said, "Well, no, you can't buy my house, you know." And so um, a month later, this is when the activity begins.
Who
So,
is this lady?
right, right.
Okay.
So, yes. So after she was told she couldn't buy the house, there was a day where the woman across the street invited Dwayne, the oldest son, to come over to her place. So at first, when Dwayne was actually interviewed about the incident, he didn't really remember much. Like he would just
Hmm.
keep saying, he's like, "I just don't remember. I don't remember." He's like, "I don't remember why I went. I don't remember what happened once I was inside." He was just like, "I don't remember." So if you watch the documentary that Steve Shippey did for Dice Road actually came first before the shock doc that later came on
Okay.
with Cindy Kaza. So you see the first documentary and he's just like, "I just don't remember." So in the shock doc, they actually were able to go and visit where the lady across the street, like at her house. They actually could go
Okay.
over there and be in there, and it was kind of amazing because it felt like as soon as Dwayne got in there, he was just like everything kind of came back rushing to him. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
yes, so he said he remembered being in there, and the woman had brought him like a glass of iced tea, and he said he could tell something wasn't right. It didn't taste like iced tea. So she offered to give him a haircut. And yeah, and so she did. And now that was definitely talked about in the first documentary, that he was like, "I remember her cutting my hair," and that was that. But then he's retelling the story in the second one, in the shock doc, and he was like, "After she cut my hair, she had a lock of my hair and she put it in her mouth and swallowed it."
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a huge revelation to have, and something
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So I know, right?
I can't even
Like,
imagine.
no,
I
I'm
hate
not
it when
really.
I get one little piece
Oh
of
my
hair in my
gosh,
mouth.
right? I hate it.
Gross.
I hate it. Yeah, this was a whole lock, and she
Yeah,
put it in
she
her
was
mouth
on a
and she
mission
swallowed.
for sure. She
Yeah,
she was
she was.
she was. Yeah.
So yeah, so poor Dwayne, he went home and he ended up having a grand mal seizure that night.
Wow.
They never understood. He went to the doctors. They could not figure out why that happened. But it doesn't feel right that he spent an afternoon with her and then came
Mhm.
home and this happened to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so kind of pretty much from that moment on, even his brother Terry was like, he just wasn't the same. Um,
Hmm.
they even had talked about that Dwayne would sometimes, like, they would see him having conversations with people who weren't there.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was something he was always kind of sensitive to, seeing,
Yeah.
people who have been deceased, and maybe he was having conversations with them. This kind of made it sound like that wasn't the case, that this was kind of something new that started happening after this had happened to him. So I did kind of look up a little bit about hair,
I'm
and
glad you did because
yeah,
I'm very curious about this.
and what it means. So hair is actually kind of some serious business when it comes to um, different types of, I don't know if you want to, I don't really like using the word religious practices. I don't know.
Like spiritual
Sure, we'll go with
practices.
spiritual
Okay.
practices. Yes, yeah. I mean, your hair is very much like something, a part of you. So for things like witchcraft or even something like hoodoo, these things are known. Like hair is a big deal. Like that is, by taking hair, that is like the essence of the person. So it would kind of make sense that she kind of wanted a way in. And so she kind of used Dwayne to be that person. And they
Yeah.
do talk about in the documentaries that it is possible that Dwayne could have always been a little more sensitive, very open to the paranormal. And so maybe she kind of honed in on
Right.
him being the one. And so she thought he might be like, an easy target for something like that.
Right.
So, yeah, hair, everybody. You got to be careful
Ugh.
with your hair. Don't give it out and that's the thing. Like, there's so many things that, if you have hair, like, it kind of can control. Like, if in some practices like that, I believe that you can kind of control somebody too by having something like that. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So apparently, this is kind of like after, the whole situation lasted, from what I understand, I think it was like a year and a half. And so at one point, and this was kind of interesting to me, I don't know if she was a regular at the Catholic church there. It sounds like the Pomeranians kind of just eventually moved into, like, they became like and started attending the Catholic church more,
Okay.
because it was said that the woman across the street was also attending church there at the Catholic church.
Which is really weird since she was a witch,
Yes,
but
yes.
also a
Yeah.
churchgoer.
Yeah, you don't hear about that too
Strange.
often. And so
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if it was just this particular day she decided to come to the church. So she had actually gone, and the Pomeranians saw her go and have a conversation with the priest, and then apparently she left pretty upset. And so shortly after that, they did see, the Pomeranians, that is, they saw the priest actually came to her home and visited her. And he
Hmm.
was there for hours. He was there for quite a while.
What?
Hmm.
I wonder if she ate his hair too.
Yeah, right. so,
Ah.
so from what I understand, the priest, this is my guess. This is my guess of what's happening. Everything I'm kind of putting together a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the witch was having some second thoughts about what she'd done.
Okay.
I think she conjured up more than she had planned.
Okay.
I think it got out of control, even beyond her control, because once, and we talked about this last week, once
Yeah.
you don't have control of these things once it's
Once
out and
you
about.
open that up. Yeah.
Yeah, literal hell will break loose.
Right.
And so my guess is she thought, I'll do I'll do a little something, we'll do a little spell, we'll scare those people enough to get out of their house, and then I'll
Right.
get it. And there's some rumors that um she wanted to have her house just to herself, and then wanted to use another house to be able to kind of do her witchcraft
Her
in.
craft.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that it
Huh.
would kind of stay over there. She didn't necessarily have to have it in her home. And I think that was supposed to be the grand plan. But the
Okay.
Pomeranians were holding on to their house. They weren't going to
Yeah.
leave it. And so I don't think it was as easy as she thought it was going to be. And I think shit got crazy, and she was like, I can't handle this anymore. It's just too much. And who knows what was happening to her at that point, because once you
Right.
conjure that stuff up, it's just
That's
like,
true.
yeah, it could come back to her. And I believe that. That's my thing. I think you kind of get back whatever you put out into this world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
certainly possible she was just so freaked out too. And she went to I'm thinking she went that day to talk to the Catholic priest and was like, I need help. I've done something wrong. And from what I understand, he did tell her, you need to quit whatever it is you're doing to these people, and you need to move. You need to leave. You need to leave them alone, and you need to get out. And so from what I understand, she actually did just that, and she left.
Oh.
Yes, yes. um
Hmm.
so it sounds like things got a little bit better once she was gone. The Pomeranians actually did move out of the house eventually. It was purchased by its current owners in 1978. So they did stay there for a few more years. Um, So the current owners actually experience a lot of paranormal activity as well. Um, so I think what has been done to the house.
Yeah.
Um, Dwayne did speak about almost always kind of feeling like something was always kind of with him. So
Yeah.
I do think it's possible. And Terry has even said, like, from that point, like, Dwayne was just never really the same again. And, it was kind of tough for him. So I think whatever was done to Dwayne was done. Like, there was no reversing that. So
Right.
he experienced his own things. And then the house kind of was given its own experience that even the current owners today are still, you know, they get it. And
Right.
so, the documentaries kind of show a lot of the evidence that there's still paranormal activity um, going on there. And I had seen the Dice Road documentary. Oh, it had been a while since I watched it, so I rewatched it, and I had forgotten the things that they captured. One of the things. So Steve Shippey is probably like my favorite paranormal investigator,
Okay.
um, and I think a lot of it is because. We watch the shows, and kind of the crews kind of come in and they're there for maybe just a couple of days and then they go. Now when Steve
Right.
Shippey does a documentary, he focuses on it for many, many months. And
Wow. That's
yeah,
good.
so
Thorough.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
so super thorough. And so the things that he picks up on camera is amazing to me. So during the documentary, and I'd forgot, like watching, I was like getting chills because it's so clear the stuff you can see. Several times you can see full body apparitions, and a lot of it is kind of happening in their backyard. They had
Ooh.
cameras set up in the back, and so you could actually see, I mean, just people just walking. Um,
Wow.
there would be times the cameras were inside set up, and you could um, see, I mean, white, very white, transparent or translucent. Um, you can tell it's like people shaped,
Yeah.
coming right up to the windows, walking by the windows. Even the owners now have said many times they've seen, like, you can see like a person like looking in the window,
Oh, I'm
but they
always
have like,
afraid of that.
I know, but
Uh,
it's like a white face
oh,
looking in. Yeah. And so it's incredible. I highly recommend, because I've never seen so many. I mean, I talk about, I love watching all the paranormal shows, but you can only get so much in a couple days time. You can only pick up so much. So it's always amazing when they pick up anything at all. But
right.
I feel like when Steve Shippey is doing these documentaries, like, you get you get footage, you get evidence of these things existing, and it's really, really interesting. So
Yeah.
I had just forgotten how much you could see in this one, and it just, oh my gosh, it just gave me the chill.
It's on my list to watch this
Definitely,
weekend. Yeah.
definitely check it out. And there's even a part where Steve is talking to the camera, and in the background, there's something that kind of like looks around, like you can see it as he's
Ah,
talking. Yeah. And it's like peeking around, and it's, oh, yeah. And so it's kind of nice because in his docs, if you miss it the first time, like, he'll play it through. If you miss it, they really kind of zoom in and light up so you can actually see what's going on. So you won't miss it. Yeah, it's
wow.
incredible. Yeah. I was going to say too about the documentaries. So Steve Shippey actually has a museum in Saginaw, the Haunted Museum, and so I've actually been there. I was super lucky. I got to go investigate in there with Steve Shippey. So he had when he premieres his documentaries in Saginaw. It was the first time I had gone to see one of his films, and this particular film was on the museum that he owns now, which used to actually be like a funeral home. And
Oh,
so, yeah.
goodness. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it is said the building itself is haunted. And then he put all of his like haunted artifacts in the museum. So a lot of the things you see, he has like different rooms dedicated to the documentaries that he's done.
Okay.
And so, so I had actually gone to that film premiere, and then you could pay a little extra and go after the movie and do an investigation of his museum with him there. Yeah, so he was
That's
there.
really cool.
It was really really cool. Um, so I have to admit, I have a small crush on Steve Shippey. He is my paranormal investigator crush.
Okay.
So yeah. So when I went to be there, like I was just like super nervous, right? And
Yeah.
so and I don't know, there weren't many of us there. I feel like there were some people that he already knew that were kind of around. His producer Jamie was there, and then another woman who kind of like helps out in the shop, she was there that night. So I don't even know, there might have been 6 of us there.
Okay.
And
So a small
so
group. Yeah.
yes. And so so we would kind of go around and check out the different rooms. He has like an upstairs area. I mean, we were there for a long time. um like probably 8 hours we were there investigating. And so I was just by myself, and and so I was like super nervous because not only because I'm in a haunted building, but you know, I was like, Steve Shippey's there. And so
Yeah.
and so I noticed though throughout the night, like he was kind of talking with everybody, but he was not talking to me. He would go from like different person to person and like the groups and stuff that were there. He just, yeah, but he wasn't saying anything. And so I was like, okay. But we get through the end of the night, and I did ask to get my picture with him. He did do that. And then I went inside because they have a little gift shop. And so I was getting some things. Trying to remember, I may have gotten, see, I'm like full
Oh,
on,
yeah.
like, I decided
Oh, good.
because of the subject matter. So I got a mug, I got a shirt, I got some
Of
stuff.
course, you have to get a
Yes.
mug.
Right. Yes. And I know, so I was even cool because even on the receipt, like I was the first person to buy anything. So it said customer number 1 on it. So I kept my receipt because I was like,
Oh,
I was the first customer in the museum.
did you
And
frame
so
that thing?
I have it. I'm going to scrapbook it. so so I check out, and then I completely turn it, like I turn around because I'm like, okay, it's time to go home. And boom, Steve Shippey's like right there. He's like, so where are you from? I was like, I mean, I probably like, I was like,
Did you fangirl out on
yeah,
him?
exactly, a little bit. And so I was trying to keep it cool, but yeah, like we talked about that, and I said I'm from like the Ann Arbor area and talked with him about that. And so he just started chatting with me. Like he went all night, not a word. And so I'm getting ready to leave. He's chatting now. But I kind of talked about, he asked me how I liked the film, and it was actually really good. That place is definitely haunted. And it was really neat because I know in the documentary there's a particular room up there where he was doing EVP sessions, and you could hear this particular voice of this man.
Ooh,
And so we went and did the same thing in the same room. I kid you not, it's the same voice, it's the same guy. I was like, you can't make this shit up, because I'm like, I just
wow.
heard it in the movie, and here I
Yeah.
am in person. He's asking the questions. It's the same exact voice. But it was so interesting because I know Steve had asked, where are you from? And you could clearly hear back Lincoln Park. Like, yeah, it
Wow.
was, yeah.
Okay.
So the place is definitely haunted. It's so worth a visit. It was really, really cool. So yeah, so we chatted. I had to let him know I was a filmmaker too. And, and that,
Yes.
yeah, I was like, yeah. So we chatted, we talked about, screenwriting software and things of that nature. I don't know. It was good. I kind of blacked out at some points.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, I think he
Yeah.
gave me a hug. I don't. That's probably the point where I blacked out. Um, but yeah, but then I was so excited because he was like, you should find me on Facebook. He was like, you can friend me on Facebook. And so I was super excited because I don't think he told anybody else there that he could,
That is good.
friend
Yeah.
on Facebook. So yeah. So we're Facebook friends. And it was so funny because I didn't do it. Like I waited a couple of days because, that's not cool to like do it right away. Right.
Right, right,
And so,
right.
so I gave it some time, and then I wrote probably the most obnoxious message in, like, thinking he wasn't going to remember who I was. So I had
Right.
to write and tell him and explain who I was and how we met, and that you said to send a Facebook request, and so yeah, so he wrote back, but it was like something really short, like, yeah, of course, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was my encounter with Steve Shippey. But yeah, it was I the whole point of that story was that, yes, I mean, I think it's definitely worth a trip there too, because then, like I said, there's a huge room dedicated to the Pomeranings investigation, and so there's so many pictures. You actually have copies of the reports that were filed, and so where you can actually see where there were firemen and there were police officers who had to write their reports on everything. It's all up
Right.
there, and they're explaining like that we can't explain this stuff. So
Yeah.
super fascinating, and also if you've seen the Steve Shippey documentaries, I my favorite investigator with him is Tim Rooney, and
Okay.
so Tim no longer does the docs with him. But
Oh,
when I was rewatching, I was like, oh yes, I'm like, Tim is in this one. He doesn't get as much screen time as he does in some of the others. I don't know why. He cracks me up. And yeah, so I was super happy that, yeah, so Tim is in this one
yeah.
too. So it's really interesting. It's awesome.
So what is
But
the name of the museum?
so
Do you
it's
know?
a haunted Saginaw museum.
Oh, so
And
it's called the Haunted Saginaw Museum.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And so it actually has so not only there's different rooms that has all the, like, a lot of things he picked up along the way from the different investigations he did, but he also he goes like antiquing, so he can find different things,
Like
you
cursed
know.
items and
Mhm.
yeah. I
Exactly. So
wanna
he
do
kind
that.
I know, right? And so he's got like a full glass case of like cursed dolls and some cursed objects and things like that. There is a particular set of dolls. It's the grandma and grandpa dolls. And so, yeah, and I also recommend, I don't know I want to say it's A Haunting on Adam Street is the one that's about his museum. So he actually does
Okay.
an investigation in there. So he talks a little bit more about the grandma and grandpa doll. But most everyone when we saw the movie and we got there, we were very fascinated by grandma and grandpa because, he brought in some experts to kind of get the stories on some of his objects. And that
Yes.
was the most fascinating because so it is said that grandma is actually, there's a demon inside the grandma doll, and
Ooh.
that there's a human spirit in the grandpa doll, and the demon trapped the human spirit into the grandpa doll, and grandma won't let him go. So
Oh.
now they're just in these dolls, which is like,
Oh. How creepy is that?
yeah. And so I was, I'll never forget when we were there at the museum talking about it and Steve's answering questions. Like, I don't know why. Like, I don't know if I was just so traumatized at the thought of this being able to happen. Like, I couldn't stop asking him questions. I was just like, wait a minute. I was like, how does this happen? I was like, I just want to make sure I don't do the steps in order to have this happen to me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I I had all I was like, well, "How does this happen, Steve?" I was like, How?" Because, like, yeah, and he's like, I don't really know exactly how it all happened, but you can you can get EVPs from this grandma doll. Like, you can get answers." So people were completely fascinated and wanted to keep talking to this thing,
Right.
and it got to the point where Steve was like, "You guys don't give her too much attention because, like,
It's
gets
not a good thing.
it's
Yeah.
not a good thing." So I always like, I don't know. I always worry about people visiting, like taunting that doll. Like, you know what I mean? If you hear the backstory, I don't even
Right.
know, but that's what's said to be in those dolls. And they're not, and they're like, here's the interesting thing is today I actually went out and I stopped at an antique store and I was walking around, and I literally found a set that was pretty much identical to Grandma and Grandpa.
Oh,
Yeah, I took a picture of it. Yeah, and so I'll post that so you guys can see. But it's literally, I mean, so part of me was just like, I kind of want to send this to Steve Shippey and be like, "There's another set. Like, there's another one."
yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah, um, so I don't know, but
see, this is why I can't do the doll thing. I can't
yeah,
do it. I just,
yeah.
ah,
You never know. You never know what's in them. You have
you
no idea
don't.
what's in them. Yeah, just that story fascinated me, and it just kind of, I don't know, that kind of freaked me out. I was just
Yeah,
like, how do you get tricked into having your soul be put into the body of a doll? And then I'm like, feel so bad for the guy. And then they wanted to do some experiments. Like they kind of wanted to separate them and
yeah.
put, like, have them like facing each other in different cases to see. I don't know what came of that. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happens if you do separate them. Um, I don't know, but it's just, yeah, it's really interesting. And then not only that, but in the museum, they actually have some artifacts from when it was a funeral home. And so there's a lot of stuff like that laid out for everyone to see. There's some haunted mirrors, like what that said, if you stare into them for any length of time, like you can. I am not going to lie, I actually stared into both of them because I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here. Let's do
Yeah.
this. Like,
Yeah.
let's get the full
I think I
experience.
would do that. I think I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, like, so Zach Bagans has his haunted museum as well in Las Vegas. He has a lot of very infamous artifacts in his as well, and I know there's a mirror at his place too. It's the Bela Lugosi mirror, and people have, like, if you look into it, people have like passed right out staring into it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. So Steve has a couple mirrors very similar to that up there too. I will tell you, when I was there, and I'm sorry, like I'm going off into like the museum portion. I
That's
was actually going to
okay.
do at one
This
point
is
like a
really
whole episode.
interesting.
It's
Yeah.
really fascinating. We got plenty of EVPs. I got There's one room in particular. There's a documentary he does about a house, and there were a lot of things brought back from that house. I will tell you that room felt the worst to me. It felt the worst. I actually at one point could two times in the museum, I could feel someone standing like right behind
Oh,
me. Once in that room, and then once upstairs. It was like an intake where they would take in the bodies of people,
right.
and you could feel it there. I'm like, someone's
Oh,
behind me, but there's no one behind me, kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. Don't like that.
No,
I'm
don't like
gonna do
that.
my microphone.
That's right. Exactly. Yep.
No.
And in there is a lot of colorful orbs that you can see
Oh,
it with just with the human eye.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I saw a lot of blue green orbs. And I know at one point there was another woman that was in the group. She was kind of standing with me because I'm like staring at it. Like we're in the dark and I was kind of staring. She walked up. She's like, "Do you see something?" I'm like, "Yeah, look." I'm like, "Am I?" Because at first you're like, "Am I imagining this? Am I, you know?" And I was like, "Do you see them?" And she's like, "Yeah, I see them." And they just were one of those things. They were round and colorful, and then they just kind of like collapsed in on themselves, and they were just kind of like whoop,
Oh,
then it was gone. So
interesting.
that's super hard to explain. Yeah. So it's worth a visit. Come to Michigan to our haunted museum.
Yes, I doubt this is on my list is getting longer and
I know.
longer.
I know, isn't it? Yeah, I would like
Yeah.
to revisit. I haven't been back since that first like opening night with it.
Oh,
So I think it would be a lot of fun. I really want to go
yeah.
check it again. Yeah. And so, well, on with the Pomeranian family.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Harold and Mabel both passed away kind of at a younger age. They
Huh.
both passed in their early 60s. I believe Harold had a heart attack. I, don't, I apologize. I'm not sure how Mabel passed away. But a lot of the family has said that just the stress of all of that really caused them so much pain. They
Yeah.
truly feel like because of that, it caused them an early death. It was a lot. And then unfortunately, Dwayne Pomeranian passed away almost 2 years to the day of us recording this. He passed away May 6th of 2023, at
Okay.
the age of 69. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So, yeah,
And also in his 60s.
in his
So,
60s as well. Yeah.
yeah.
I do think, I don't know, I think there was some really terrible things unleashed on that poor family. And
Yeah.
I think it just got out of control, to the point where even the woman who started it couldn't even fix it.
Yeah.
Um, and we talked a lot about this in last week's episode. Just it's just, you just can't mess with that stuff. You just don't know what the heck you're doing.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And I think even though she was an ordained witch, and that's the thing too. I think sometimes people who practice Wiccan and witchcraft and things like that. I mean, I think there's so many. I kind of feel like I want to clarify this. Like, not every witch is a bad witch. There's so many other, aspects of being a witch as well, right? So there's, doing white magic and black magic.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, this particular witch was practicing black magic,
Right.
um, and I think it just got way out of control. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it makes me feel so bad. This poor family, like, it affected pretty much the rest of their
Right.
life. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So at the time that I visited the museum, that evening, so the shock doc had not been released yet, but it was in the trailer of the documentary we were seeing at the theater. So they were kind of showed a little teaser trailer for upcoming. So I, on this particular case, had about 100 questions for Steve Shippey,
I
and I think
bet.
other people did too. And so, because we had seen the original documentary, and so at the time, he really couldn't say a whole lot. He couldn't really answer those questions just because a lot of the questions were answered in the shock doc that he did, and so. Yeah, so I feel like I did get a lot of questions answered on that. And I feel like watching it again, I feel like I kind of understand a little bit more. Like, at least this is what I think kind of
Yeah.
happened to them. And even in the shock doc, they go over to, like I said, they go over to the what would have been the witch's home too. And they got some activity over there too. So I have
I
a
can
feeling,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I have a feeling it's just everywhere. And Dice Road itself actually has quite a history. There's other homes down that road. And as Steve even does another documentary, I think it's called Dice Road 2, where it's another family in their home. They experience an insane
Huh.
amount of paranormal activity. And they have a cemetery on Dice Road, that is also, I've heard some crazy stories about the stuff that goes on near the cemetery. You get these challenges where you're like, okay, like, they'll have people drive and like park outside the cemetery and wait, and then they can see people, like, things will come out of the cemetery, like, after
Eh,
you. I know.
wow.
Every time I hear those stories, that creeps me out too. So Dice Road itself has a lot of history, a lot of
Yeah.
haunted history. So I just think it might be just one of those areas that just a lot going on. I do know the current family that is there is not super tolerant of people,
Oh,
because,
have
I
you
mean,
driven by it,
I
the
have
house?
not. I
Okay.
didn't, just because at the time I felt bad. Like, when I was in the area and I had gone to the museum for that investigation, and then I felt really bad because Steve was kind of talking about the family that's there now.
Yeah.
Just they get so many people driving. I mean, you said it happened
Yeah.
with
It
you
happened
and
to
you were in
me
your house. Like,
too. Yep.
once word gets out, you have a haunted house. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a lineup at Christmas time when you have the houses
Right.
that you dial the radio into and their lights
Uh-huh.
are dancing to it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what it becomes if you have a haunted house. Like, people want to come by and see. And so I know they had people trespassing, which I would have never done in a million years.
No.
But some point, yeah, I wouldn't mind just driving down Dice Road.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was thinking. It sounds
yeah,
like you never know what might happen
you
just on
never
that
know.
road alone. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah. So that's my story
I feel like this should
for the
be a
day.
movie. I don't know why it's not a film
I
yet.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm a little
This thing needs a
surprised.
script, I think.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised, and maybe he has. I'm kind of surprised Steve isn't the one doing it. And that was
Yeah.
something him and I were talking about um, in our conversation. Was he said he was like, yeah, I've written a couple of horror movies, so I think if
Hmm.
anybody could get the rights to this story, it would be Steve Shippey, and I think that would be cool because this is a story I feel like you don't even need to embellish anything.
No,
The real
exactly.
the
Like
real
it's
stuff is scary enough on its own.
mhm.
So
Mhm.
scary.
Yep.
So yeah, like I said, this is like it is like a horror film, and yeah, I think somebody should because it's a fascinating case.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Woo, thank you for telling the story. I can't believe I've never heard of it.
I know,
That's
I know. It's really something, isn't it? And
yes.
doesn't it kind of make you think about the other stories that might be out there that we have no idea about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's probably so many other stories like people um experiencing something like this or worse, that
Yeah.
we
I
don't
mean, I
even
was just thinking
know.
about, I mean, Amityville,
Mhm,
that one is I feel like there were some similarities between the two.
mhm. Yeah,
Um, yeah. What fascinates me is the the demons have like personalities. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
mhm,
some of them are, more like violent and,
yeah,
malicious,
yeah,
and some are just more hands off, like we're gonna do some creepy things,
yes,
so like with the case we talked about last week with Robbie
mhm,
Mannheim,
yeah,
the exorcist story. I mean that they almost, I mean they can almost killed that kid. I mean
yes,
his
yeah,
body was just thrashed,
yeah, exactly.
and then you got this one where they're throwing knives
Yes,
and,
yeah,
setting fires, and it's just
yes,
like
yeah.
it's
It's
just
so
amazing that
dangerous.
there's the different levels of malevolence,
Exactly.
So
And the one thing I find really fascinating about this case too is that it seemed the problems seemed to ramp up after the priest came in.
right,
Normally things like that, like I mean, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just gave a blessing and not. The house probably needs like an exorcism itself.
right.
So it's possible. I mean, maybe someone can come in, but I was just amazed watching the documentary again, like how much activity was still going on in that house. Like even the people who are currently living there now, I mean, God bless them for making it as long as they
I
have because
know.
I couldn't live like that knowing I could walk past a window and something's like looking right back at you.
Yeah, yeah, and I know we've talked about this before, and it may be a state to state thing, but do
Mm.
they not have to disclose
Oh,
things like this before someone buys the house?
I have a feeling that it was known. I do think it was known. I don't, but yeah, I think you're right as far as like a state by state I mean as far as like death in the house, I think that
Right,
you have to disclose that.
right,
um However, like hauntings, it's not a law. Like
right.
it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, you would have to do like your own research on your home. And I
Ugh,
think about that too. I'm just like, you just don't know. You don't stop to think about looking into these things,
no.
so yeah, it's a crapshoot what you're gonna get.
Yeah. Ugh.
Like, and I've said it. I don't think I've ever not lived in a haunted house. Like my whole life. Yeah, every
Yeah.
house I've been in is haunted in one way or another, but not to the
Mhm.
extent of something like this.
Right,
You kind of blow it off. I mean, listen, I've told my story of the current house I'm in, and that might be some of the scariest stuff I think I've ever
right.
experienced in this
Yeah,
house.
right.
But we haven't had activity for a while. It's so random.
Uh-huh.
You said that there you would get
Yes. There would be
activity. Yeah,
months of
quiet.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
then something else will completely come out
yep.
of left field. I'm like, what's happening? You think, and
Mhm.
I mean, so I'm not gonna be like, oh, everything's all gone. I don't think it's all gone. It's just
It's
quiet
just
right now.
quiet. And
Hmm.
and it fascinates me, why? Why
Hmm.
is it quiet,
Yeah,
What makes it more active and more quiet and like what
exactly.
is so fascinating.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it is, and we just don't understand. Like, we
No.
just don't understand. And like you were talking even about anything demonic. Why are some, you know, try out to kill you, and why are
Yeah.
some just like, let's torture them
Yeah.
slowly, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Let's just make them a little uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, I don't know. And sometimes you just get a super grumpy ghost, like not a nice
Yeah.
spirit, and that can be
Right.
really tough too. So yeah, you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know
Mm-mm.
how it's gonna be.
No.
Yeah, but it's hard
That's why
because
you
like,
don't mess with the Ouija board. You don't know what kind of personality is
yes,
going to become
yes,
attached to you. Ah,
exactly. That's the thing. Oh, and that happened. I couldn't believe it when I was rewatching the Dice Road documentary, the first one that came along. So Steve brought a Ouija board in the documentary, and he uses it all by himself, which I
no.
was, yeah, that's a no-no, Steve. That's a no-no. You can't. So yeah, he totally did it by himself. And at one point, the planchette moves on its own. It just darts out from under his hand. Yeah.
Ew,
Yeah. There's a lot of freaky things that happen in that time that he was there filming.
I
I
bet.
was like, how do these
Wow.
people live like this? I don't know.
I
Because
don't know.
it's
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
activity for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe they're in the same situation. They're like, now at this point, now everyone knows about it. It might be tough to let go, and
Yeah.
have someone else purchase.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So I
Need an
know.
out of stater,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Someone who doesn't know, or someone who just, you've got the people who want something like that,
That's true.
you may
They could
want some.
always make it a haunted Airbnb or something like that,
Yes. Yes.
you know?
I'm telling you, I keep thinking about that. I'm like, that would be a fun little endeavor.
Mhm.
Haunted Airbnbs.
Yeah, I was so
People
disappointed that I thought of it after the fact because that would have been
when
a
you let your house
great
go.
thing to do with the Lamar house.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh,
So,
but anyway, well,
yes.
thank you. That was a really
Yeah.
great story. I
Yeah. Good.
loved hearing about Hell House.
Yeah. Good.
I'm just blown away that it was off my radar. So, thank
Yes.
you.
And yeah. Once, you guys, I definitely recommend both documentaries, and it will, anything I'm saying today, this actually seeing it is going to, it's like even so much more. Like, it's
I am
freakier to
definitely going to
see it.
check it out.
Oh my gosh. And the stuff that they pick up, the voices they hear, I know in the shock doc, I mean, yeah, it'll say,
Yeesh.
like, get the voices saying, like, he'll ask, who is this? And it will come back saying Satan, the demon.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
It's
I'm
no good.
definitely watching this. This is
Right.
crazy. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we
So
should
check them both
probably
out.
mention to our listeners that we do not recommend hair eating.
Nope.
So don't try that at home.
Nope.
Anything else?
Don't use your Ouija board. Don't ever use a Ouija board, but really don't use it by yourself.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. Don't ever do that.
Yep. Don't take any drinks from your local ordained witch. You don't know if she's a
No,
good witch or a bad witch.
definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not iced tea, folks.
It
It's
may not be
not
iced
iced
tea.
tea.
It's not. You don't even know. There might be hair in that too.
True. Maybe they ate each other's hair and that's why they
Yeah,
were connected.
exactly. It's just a
Who
terrible
knows?
situation.
Ugh,
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, lessons. That's our PSA for today.
that's right. Don't try this stuff at home.
Right. So,
All
so
right.
yeah, so I will be sure this week we're going to post some fun pictures of from today's episode. So be sure to follow us on Instagram. We are there, Unexplained Archives 25. We are also on Facebook as the Unexplained Archives. And if you yourself have a haunted house story, or if you've ever been accosted by a neighbor witch, we would love to hear your story. So you can email us at unexplainedarchives@gmail.com.
Yes. We can't wait to hear from you. We love it. We've had some really good comments coming in.
Yeah.
And if we haven't gotten back to you, we will.
Mhm.
We're figuring this out. Like some
Yeah.
we can see on the
On the
computer only and some we can see on
yeah.
our phone, but we promise you we will get back to you and we
Yeah.
love it. So keep it coming.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you guys. Thank you for the support. Like and subscribe, and and the comments.
Share.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yes. All
All
right.
right.
Everybody
Thanks,
have an
Jen.
awesome week, and we will be back next week with another fun story.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.